Some women don't chase, they don't beg, they don't shout their pain into the night, hoping to be heard. They withdraw quietly, deliberately, and in that silence, a man begins to hear the echoes of his own unconscious. For Carl Jung, the human soul was a battlefield between shadow and light, and when a woman pulls away, she awakens in a man, not just the fear of loss, but the confrontation with his own shadow. It is not her absence he fears most, it is the mirror she leaves behind. He once felt in her the warmth of unconditional presence, a nurturing archetype, the anima that sings in every man's psyche. But when she withdraws, that song vanishes, and he is left only with the raw hum of his own emptiness. It is then that desire twists into obsession. He does not pursue her only because she is gone. He pursues her because she has become the embodiment of everything he disowned in himself. This is projection in its purest form. She is no longer just a woman. She becomes the vessel of his unlived life, his rejected tenderness, his forgotten longing. And in her silence, he meets what Jung called the shadow, the parts of himself he never dared to face. But understand this, withdrawal is not cruelty. It is not manipulation. It is alchemy. A woman who withdraws does not abandon. She transforms. She takes back her energy, her gaze, her presence, and returns it to herself. And in that return, she is reborn, not as the servant of his need, but as the guardian of her own soul. Men often fear this not because they lose affection, but because they lose control. Control over the narrative, over the rhythm of desire, over the certainty that she will always remain. In the silence of her absence, his ego trembles. He is confronted with the truth that he was never the sun she revolved around. She was always the light he mistook as his own. In this way, her withdrawal becomes a sacred act of individuation. She steps out of the archetype of the eternal giver and into the figure of the sovereign self. This terrifies him because in her strength, she reveals his weakness. In her distance, she reveals his dependency. In her mystery, she reveals how little he has truly known himself. Picture it, a woman once radiant at his side, now walking through the night with nothing but the sound of her footsteps. She does not look back, and he, standing still, feels the silence like a storm. He realizes too late that the power was never in her words or her presence, it was in the silence. She was always capable of choosing. But the deepest truth is this. A woman who withdraws does not do so to punish. She does it to remember. She remembers her worth. She remembers that desire cannot be begged for, it must be freely given. She remembers that her presence is not a gift to squander, but a force to be revered. And as she remembers, she becomes untouchable. Not because she is cold, but because she is whole. The man, left with his restless ego, is faced with a choice: collapse into fear, or confront the inner void her absence has revealed. Few are brave enough to enter that darkness. Fewer still emerge with wisdom. Yet for those who do, her withdrawal becomes the catalyst for his own transformation, the painful but necessary invitation to integrate his shadow, to reconcile his anima, to grow beyond the child who demands and into the man who can honor. And so the story is not one of punishment, but of initiation. The woman who withdraws calls forth the truth in both herself and the man who once held her. She learns that silence is not weakness, it is strength refined into stillness. And he learns, if he dares, that to love her is not